What are anima and animus? There are moments when we look at someone and feel something far deeper than just attraction. It's not just love or infatuation. It's like encountering something ancient, mysterious, indescribable. And then there are other moments when we feel like we're fighting with ourselves, with a voice inside that demands things, or criticizes us, or tries to manipulate us from within. All of this are traces of powerful inner figures living in our psyche. They have names: Anima and Animus. Carl Jung discovered that each of us carries an unconscious image of the opposite gender within our psyche. And it's not just about what kind of partner we're attracted to. It's a deep archetypal structure of the mind. The anima is the inner feminine side of a man's soul. The animus is the inner masculine side of a woman's soul. And as long as these inner figures remain unconscious, they control us. They become the root of painful relationships. They whisper in our minds with voices that aren't truly ours. They push us to search for a perfect partner who doesn't exist, or make us reject real intimacy altogether. But if we learn to see them, if we dare to meet them face to face, then the path opens to a new kind of wholeness, deeper, truer, real. The origins: why Jung saw anima and animus as archetypes. Carl Jung wasn't just a psychiatrist. He was a seeker of the soul, someone who refused to settle for simple explanations. He believed there was more to the human psyche than just personal experience, more than just parents, more than society. He called it the collective unconscious, a deeper layer of the psyche shared by all of us. And within this collective space live powerful ancient forces known as archetypes. They're not memories, they're patterns. They shape how we see the world, how we feel, how we react. The anima and the animus are among the most important of these archetypes. They don't just form from our personal experiences with the opposite sex. They're already there, built into us from the start. We simply project them outward. Jung said that even if a man never meets a woman in his life, the anima will still exist within him. Even if a woman grows up with no men around, her animus will still take shape. These figures aren't fantasies. They're part of our inner architecture, like a lens through which we view ourselves, others, and the world. And the more unconscious that lens is, the more it distorts reality. We fall in love, get disappointed, idealize, obsess, not with the person in front of us, but with a projection of the archetype. But if we start to see the lens clearly, we can learn to take it off. And when we do, the ghost fades, and a real person stands before us. Not confusion, not fantasy, but a true path toward inner wholeness. Anima in men, animus in women. Anima in men. The anima is the feminine archetype within a man's psyche. But it's not just softness or sensitivity. It's an inner feminine figure, one that a man unconsciously carries inside himself. It influences everything: his emotions, intuition, sense of love, relationships, even creativity and spirituality. Most often, the anima reveals herself through the idealization of women. A man doesn't fall in love with a real person. He falls in love with an image he already carries within. He's drawn to mysterious, graceful, emotionally intense women, even if he doesn't know why. What feels like love at first sight is often a meeting with his own anima, a projection that has found a form in the outer world. Emotionally, this may look like strong emotional dependency on his partner, idealizing her completely, or falling apart the moment she shows her flaws, searching for a woman to save him, unlock him, or make him whole. But deep down, he's searching for a missing part of himself. But the anima isn't just about romance. She is also the source of inspiration and a sacred connection to the soul. When integrated, a man becomes more emotionally aware, more intuitive, and far more grounded in depth. Animus in women. The animus is the masculine archetype within a woman's psyche. It's the inner voice that says, be strong, don't give in, take control, act. If the anima is soul, the animus is will, conviction, criticism, and action. The animus often shows up as an inner critic that constantly devalues her. You're not good enough. Who do you think you are? A voice of hardness. Don't trust anyone. Stay sharp. The world is a battlefield. A strong attraction to cold, dominant, emotionally unavailable men, because that's the version of the animus she carries inside. A woman with an active, unintegrated animus may constantly clash with men, yet feel unable to live without them, feel misunderstood, like no one truly gets her, need to control everything, even her own emotions. Yet deep down, she feels isolated and alone. But the integrated animus is an immense power. He becomes an inner backbone, offering clarity, focus, decisiveness, while allowing her to stay alive, emotional, and real. How anima and animus show up in real life. Have you ever felt like you finally met her or him? And it felt cosmic, magical. But then it all turned into pain, frustration, disappointment. You weren't meeting a real person. You were meeting a part of yourself. Fantasies. We all create ideal images in our imagination. But some fantasies carry a different kind of weight. For a man, it's the dream of a woman who understands him with just a glance. Delicate, deep, mysterious, a muse. She may show up in dreams, music, poetry. That's the anima calling from within. For a woman, it's the image of a strong, distant, silent man. He doesn't smile unnecessarily. He shows up, rescues her, or silently leads. That's the animus. In these fantasies, there's a deep emotional merging. They're not just about love or sex. They're about rediscovering yourself through another. Love and idealization. Most of the time, we don't lose our minds over a person. We lose ourselves in the archetype we see in them. That's why infatuation feels so intense, so uncontrollable, so irrational. We barely know the person, and yet we're sure they're the one. Idealization kicks in automatically. We don't see flaws. We don't see shadow. Only light. Only brilliance. It feels like finding a lost piece of your soul, but in truth, it's just a deep projection that got triggered. For a man, the woman becomes a goddess, a muse, a savior, sometimes even a mother. He sees in her all the emotions he's afraid to feel: tenderness, spontaneity, intuition. He worships her, but the image is fragile. And when she doesn't live up to it, the crisis begins. For a woman, the man becomes a father, a judge, an authority. She believes he knows everything, that with him, life will have meaning, structure, direction. But the moment he fails to meet those hopes, it all collapses. Aggression, aversion, and conflict. Archetypes don't always show up as love. Sometimes they erupt as inner enemies. For men, this can look like sudden anger toward women. He feels manipulated, smothered, emotionally overwhelmed. He sees drama, hysteria, excessive emotion, and wants to escape. But this isn't about women. It's about his rejected anima. For women, it can show up as bitterness toward men. All men are weak. They're afraid of real women. They only want one thing. But that's not just experience. That's the animus projection, the inner critic turned outward. Often, we don't even realize, why does this person annoy me so much? Why can't I forget that ex who hurt me? Why do I keep meeting the same type over and over again? It's not about them. It's about an archetype we haven't yet met within. The swing from obsession to aversion. It often goes like this. Where have you been all my life? Adoration. The hope they'll save me. Disappointment. Then anger or withdrawal. That's what the archetype does when we project it instead of integrating it. And the deeper the pain, the greater the chance to wake up. That wasn't about her or him. That was about me. How does it feel inside? It's that voice whispering, "This is your person," and the desire to drop everything for them. Dreams of a future after just one conversation. Jealousy, emotional roller coasters, drama. A constant mental stage where you can't just be alone with yourself. But if you really pay attention, you'll realize it's all living inside you. The people around you, they're just the screen. You're projecting your own movie. Projections and disappointment in relationships. A projection is when you're not really seeing a person. You're seeing your own inner content without realizing it. It's like watching a movie inside your mind and mistaking it for reality. How does projection work? A man, for example, carries within him the figure of the anima, dreamy, tender, sensitive, intuitive. He meets a woman, and instead of getting to know her as a real person, he unconsciously overlays that inner image onto her. She becomes mysterious, deep. But time passes, and eventually he realizes she's ordinary. She doesn't read his mind. She has her own wounds, her own flaws. She's human, not an archetype. And that's when disappointment sets in. Not because she's bad, but because he no longer sees his projection in her. Or because she herself broke it by being too real, too alive, too different from the dream. For a woman, it's a similar story. She meets a man who seems special, confident, quiet, intelligent, driven. She believes that with him, she'll find peace, clarity, purpose. But in time, he turns out to be not so deep, or he's weak, or cold, or cruel. And the whole fantasy collapses, because the image inside her couldn't hold up in the real world. And what really happens during disappointment? It's one of the most painful phases, because we're not just losing a person. We're losing an ideal. That fantasy gave us meaning, romance, inspiration, the illusion of being complete. And so we feel hurt, How could you not be what I imagined? Anger, you ruined everything. Depression, I'll never meet anyone again. This was all pointless. Self-blame, I picked the wrong person again. But deep down, this is a moment of truth. It's a confrontation with reality that opens the door to real inner work. Projection is avoidance of the self. We project because we're afraid to look inward. A man disconnects from his feelings and searches for them in a woman. A woman doesn't trust her own strength, so she seeks it in a man. We haven't developed a part of ourselves, and we hope someone else will carry it for us. Projection is an attempt to hand over the responsibility for your soul to someone else, but no one can carry that weight. When projection falls apart, it's a chance. Yes, it hurts. Yes, the relationship might break. But this moment is a door to healing. Because now, you can start seeing your partner as they really are. Not as an ideal, but as a human being. You can take back the projection and begin developing that part within yourself. You can walk the path of integration and stop waiting for someone else to complete you. This is the deeper purpose of Jungian work. Not just to find the one, but to become whole. So you're no longer searching for yourself in someone else. Integrating the anima, animus, a key to individuation. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. C.G. Jung. And part of that darkness is what we've never explored within ourselves, but constantly see in others. This is why the path to wholeness must pass through the integration of the anima or animus. What does it mean to integrate? It doesn't mean getting rid of something or stopping projections overnight. Integration means recognizing this part is mine and beginning to live with it, work with it, and grow it from within. For a man, integrating the anima means learning to connect with his emotions, allowing himself to trust intuition, seeing vulnerability not as failure, but as a vital part of being human, developing inner depth, empathy, and a connection to the unconscious. For a woman, integrating the animus means building her own inner foundation, speaking and acting with clarity and logic, allowing herself to think independently, finding her own voice and her own authority. What changes after integration? Relationships become more real, free from idealization, free from emotional dependence. There's less blame, less "you betrayed me," because you no longer expect someone else to fill the voids inside you. You gain a deeper understanding of yourself. You see what you long for and why. You stop fighting the shadow and start listening to it. That inner dialogue, no longer a battle, but a harmony. This is transformation. Integration is not a technique. It's a turning point, a shift that changes everything. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Integrating the anima or animus is exactly that act of awareness, and as a result, you step out of projection, out of drama, out of emotional traps. You're no longer chasing your other half, because now you are whole. How to notice and work with the anima, animus. How do you know when it's the anima or animus speaking? In men, Fantasies, idealized, almost otherworldly visions of women, mystical, aesthetic, ethereal. She's my muse. I feel connected to her, even though we barely know each other. Emotional swings, sudden moods, ecstasy, sorrow, longing for a softness that doesn't seem to exist. Dreams, a woman from a dream realm, sometimes a guide, a seductress, or a cold queen. Often she signals deep inner change, spiritual pull, an interest in mysticism, symbols, or intuitive knowledge, often driven by the unconscious anima. In women, inner dialogue, voices that say, you must, be logical, don't feel too much. That harsh inner tone often belongs to the animus. Idea obsession, latching onto a belief, phrase, or concept, becoming a carrier of truth. Fantasies of a strong man, dreaming of an authoritative figure who will come and fix everything. Dreams, the man appears as a warrior, teacher, dark brother, or lover, sometimes even as a tyrant or jailer, a symbol of an unintegrated animus. How does this show up in communication? You idealize a stranger and instantly imagine a romance. You keep being drawn to a type, not a person, but a projection. You find yourself thinking, he's probably right. She just feels more. I'm not deep enough. I need someone who... That's not your mature self talking. That's the archetype speaking. How to work with it. 1. Observe. Don't suppress. Notice your thoughts. This part of me is fantasizing again. I'm looking for a savior in him. Just admitting it, that's already 50% of integration. 2. Write the dialogue. Write down what your inner figure is saying. What does it want? What is it afraid of? This is one of Jungian psychology's core techniques, called active imagination. 3. Study your dreams. If you see recurring male or female figures, don't ask who they are. Ask, what do they symbolize? Where are they from? What part of me do they represent? 4. Redirect the desire inward instead of thinking, I need him, her. Ask, what do I truly long for? What quality am I projecting? How can I grow it within myself? Patience and process. Integrating the anima or animus isn't about solving a problem. It's about becoming whole, gradually, honestly, deeply. This is the path to becoming real. Practice. What to do when your anima or animus takes over. An archetype is like a god. Either you work with it or it works through you. Jungian wisdom. When the anima dominates in men, he stops acting. He's paralyzed, feels sadness for no reason. Mood swings, waves of joy, grief, longing, dreams of the ideal woman who will save him. Gets lost in art, mysticism, fantasy, but not life. He wants love, but avoids real intimacy. He feels so much, yet doesn't know what to do with it. Sign. His life becomes a never-ending story about the inner woman who never quite becomes real. When the animus dominates in women, she doesn't feel, she evaluates. The inner voice is ruthless. You're weak. Be smarter. Be better. She's constantly arguing with an imagined man inside her head, who's always right. She thinks she knows the truth, but becomes emotionally distant. Or she throws herself into ideas, projects, convictions, losing touch with her body, heart, intuition. Sign, she lives in her head, not in herself. What to do? 1. Notice where you lose balance. Are your emotions swinging wildly? Anima. Are you always pushing yourself and judging? Animus. Have you fallen for an image, not a person? Are you criticizing yourself again for not being strong enough? Ask honestly, is this really me? Or is it the archetype speaking? 2. Ground yourself in the body. When an archetype takes over, we leave reality into emotions or ideas. First step, return to the body. Walk, move, breathe, write by hand, eat, sleep. Connect with others on a simple human level. The body is your anchor. Archetypes hate groundedness. 3. Accept, don't fight. Okay, I escaped into a fantasy again. That's okay, that's part of me. The animus is throwing ideas at me again. That's fine. But I choose what to believe. Don't shame yourself for acting archetypally. It's normal to carry archetypes. It's not healthy to live only through them. 4. Write the situation as a scene. Imagine the archetype as a character, and you're the author. Describe. The anima is putting on a scene. The animus is shouting about truth. This creates distance. Distance brings awareness. Awareness ends unconscious control. 5. Learn to dialogue, not obey. Ask yourself, what does the anima animus want right now? What is it afraid of? Why doesn't it trust me as the conscious self? This inner conversation is the beginning of integration. 6. Ask for help if needed. Archetypal crises can be overwhelming. If you're in depression or disconnected from reality, there's no shame in seeking therapy, especially Jungian therapy, if you want to work with symbols and archetypes. 7. Remember, this isn't your enemy, it's a part of you. Even the stormiest anima or the harshest animus isn't a flaw, it's a resource, but only if you work with it, not become it. Conclusion: the path to inner wholeness. I will not become yourself until you meet the part of you that is not you. Carl Jung. What have we learned? Inside each of us lives a figure of the opposite sex. It's not an enemy, not a fantasy. It's part of the soul. In a man lives the anima, his emotion, intuition, beauty, and inner depth. In a woman lives the animus, her logic, willpower, conviction, and inner authority. If we remain unaware of them, they control us. But if we start observing them, they become our allies. Individuation is the path of bringing them together. At first, we resist. That's not me. I have to be strong. I can't feel this way. But over time, we soften. Not because we're weaker, but because we're becoming whole. The symbol of completion, union of opposites, all the great symbols, mandalas, yin-yang, alchemical marriage, say the same thing. Wholeness comes from unity of opposites. What we feared in ourselves was never darkness. It was unseen light. And so we stop running and start listening. We stop hiding and start embracing. Because this is maturity, not being just a man or just a woman, but becoming a human being who knows and honors their entire inner universe. The anima is no longer just a muse. The animus is no longer just a judge. They become allies, inner partners, voices of depth, guides in the dark. This is the end of the video, but not the end of your journey. Every day is a chance to meet yourself again, to hear who's speaking inside, and to choose again. Not reaction, but awareness. Thank you for walking this path with me. If this video touched something in you, drop a comment. Have you ever met your anima or animus? How did it shape your choices, your love, your life? and if you're ready to dive even deeper into the psyche. Coming up next, the persona, the self, the mother archetype, individuation. Subscribe. This is just the beginning.